You're listening to the Big Ideas Podcast with Ashlee Ilg. Tune in for honest conversations as we pursue bold dreams, redefine what is possible, and empower the next generation to live big. You'll hear stories that prove over and over again that just because something wasn't a part of our plan doesn't mean it won't be used for our good. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, you dream of becoming one, or you're raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. There's no time to waste on your big ideas. So let's get started. Here's your host, Ashlee Ilg.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Big Ideas Podcast. I'm Ashlee Ilg, and we are just going to continue rolling through this series of this season, talking all about just building a business from the ground up, right? We started in episode 1 of just coming up with your big idea. Last episode was all about building that CEO growth mindset, successful habits. Today's episode is going to be all about building your brand, which I'm really excited about. But before we jump in, I did want to just remind you, if you have the Future CEO Playbook that I've recently launched and designed, this is ideal to be used as an accompaniment for it. I've got a copy here if you're watching this with a video. If you have this module, if you have this playbook, this episode is going to line up with module 3, all about building your brand. If you do not have the playbook, or maybe you're waiting for it to come in the mail, that's completely fine too. This episode will definitely serve as a standalone just guide for building your brand and taking your business to the next level. But I would definitely recommend, if you don't have the playbook, make sure you do have a notebook and a pen and pencil to be taking notes and to be working alongside us as we're going through these topics. You're going to definitely get the most out of it if you are putting pen to paper, or in my case, pencil to paper, and just working through these topics as we're going through them, really getting your ideas on paper, and really just strategizing in real time as we go. So at any point, feel free to press pause, hit the rewind button. Let's make sure that we're getting everything we need and we want out of these episodes, because by the end, you really should be able to launch a business that is ongoing, it's running, it's successful, and you've got some really good strategies along the way. And like I said in the first episode too, by all means, if you need a little brain stretch or just, stress relief or whatever, hit pause, go do 10 seconds of jumping jacks, come right back to us. I promise. Again, when you get your limbs moving, the limbic part of your brain starts working in overtime, and all those creative ideas just keep flowing a little easier. So take it from me, jumping jacks are not just, an excuse to hit pause. So, but yeah, let's jump into this episode all about building your brand. Like I said, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I love the idea of putting just a face, a voice, a real personality to your business, to your brand, something that will really resonate with your customers. We're going to get in this episode, we're going to get into, everything from colors and fonts as we build out your logo. Obviously, we're going to come up with your business name. Going to give you some real strategies of using, of building a brand name that really sticks, that works, that makes sense, that can be used long term. We're going to get into building out your whole brand story, and as we'll talk about, people love a good story. People will buy from you. People will continue to buy from you and repeatedly buy from you, even if your product changes, because they love your story. And so we're going to take the time to really build that out, think through that. So a notebook, or like I said, your Future CEO Playbook, this is going to be really critical that you're taking notes, writing things down, and, really doing some behind the scenes work as well. And as we wrap up this episode, we'll give you a little homework assignment that you're going to want to do before we move on to the next episode. So, let's dive in. One of the first things I love to tell, help people as I'm coaching them in business, whether it's my own children, whether it's young adults that we've also coached in business, one of the biggest things to keep in mind as you're building your brand is to remember this: you are your brand. Your product is not your brand. And I know that might sound a little confusing or maybe even counterintuitive, but hear me out. It's really common, and it's a really good thing to be excited about your product. If you're selling bracelets, if you're selling, a cosmetic lineup, if you're selling a service like we were talking about, lawn care, that's great. You should be super excited and really passionate about your product and your service is the best thing out there, and people should spend money on it and support you and all those things. But remembering that you, first and foremost, are your brand. And what I mean by that is you are your number one billboard. You are the person that's building trust. Your product can't, yes, in its quality, it can build trust. But as you'll see as we go through this, it's going to be so clear that as we go through this and as you're building long-term business success, to remember that your product is probably going to change over the years. You might add to your product lineup. You might completely shift product lines altogether. You may completely shift industries altogether as we go. A really dramatic example of this is the company IBM that we know as just a huge computer company today. Decades ago, they started out as a meat cutting company. They were meat cutting machinery. That's what their whole company was. This was before technology was even a thing. This was a really long time ago. And I apologize, I don't know the year when they first started. But obviously, we do not know IBM today as a meat cutting company, right? They're one of the biggest powerhouses in the technology industry. And they've completely pivoted. They completely shifted their brand, but they're still this hugely respected, stable company, corporation that, again, changed with their times. They were well known back then. They're still well known today. How did they do it? They knew what their brand was. They knew what their brand stood for, and it helped shift and change with them in a good way over time. Even our golf cart industry, our golf cart dealership in the golf cart industry, we own the dealership here locally, is Big O's Golf Carts. The company is 15 years old. I can promise you, in even just 15 years, our product line has changed. The way we do business has changed. Honestly, any company that's gone through the 2020 pandemic and that whole change of the way pretty much every business operated, there was a pivot, there was a shift, and the way we do business has completely changed. But I promise you that our brand of Big O's Golf Carts has remained the same. And I truly believe, and it's probably one of the reasons I'm so passionate about building a real brand that will really stand the test of time, is because I have seen it over and over again in our own life, that people will continue to trust you, to buy from you, to want to see what your business and your products are all about, because they know that you, first and foremost, are your brand. So I can keep talking about that, but I know y'all are antsy to get into, okay, well, let's build the brand then, So let's do that. Hey friend, quick pause before we keep going. As you know, this season of the Big Ideas podcast is all about building ideas, confidence, leadership, and real world skills our kids can actually use. And if you've been listening thinking, wow, I wish I had something like this when I was growing up, I did too, which is why I created the Future CEO Playbook. It's a hands-on guide designed to help kids think like problem solvers, build and test ideas, understand money, communicate clearly, and take initiative with faith, purpose, and creativity at the center. You can order the spiral-bound workbook at ashleeilg.com or the paperback version on Amazon. Both are designed to be worked through interactively, so kids can write, plan, build, and reflect as they go. If this season has you inspired, the playbook helps you put it into action. All right, let's get back to the show. Let's start with your business name. So, a couple of things to think about as you're thinking about what you should name your business is your name should do a few things. Number one, it should be very clear of what your business is, right? It should give people a clear idea of what they're going to get from you. Like I said, Big O's Golf Carts. We're a golf cart company. Our other company, Voyager Electric Vehicles. We're an electric vehicle company, right? There's friends of ours who have a business and it's a chiropractic company. So chiropractic or spine or something like that is in the name, right? So it doesn't have to be even as clear cut as that, to be honest, but if it's a good hint, if it connects and helps customers understand what your company is, obviously you want to do that. It also wants to be easy to say, be easy to spell, be easy to remember. So many times I think people try to be so creative and so unique that they are using these names that people can't spell, they can't say, they can't pronounce it, some Latin word or whatever. And you're like, no, it's got this really deep meaning and it's really cool. And like, that's all well and good. And once you explain it, people are like, oh yeah, I get it. But at first glance, if people are like, I can't even say the company's name, so I don't even know how to spell it to like Google it, that's not going to help. So you want your business idea, your business name to be clear. You want it to be easy to remember and spell and say. And you want it to sound like you don't want it to be some crazy thing that you would just never say, So think about that as you're thinking about your business name. And a couple other things to remember or think about is, what kind of feeling do you want your business brand to portray? Do you want it to be something bold, something a little bit, brave? Do you want it to be something just real like powerhouse-ish, Do you want it to be a little bit more whimsical or a little just softer, maybe just like playful and rhyming? Do you want it to have your name in it, like Emma's Florals, or Jake's Lawn Care, those are easy ways to personalize your brand, give it a clear, idea of what it is. Some of our kids' business ideas in the past, we love alliteration. I'm not sure why, but that always tends to be where we tend to go with our business names. But Owen had a company called Cinema Snacks, and so it was all like movie theater inspired snacks, popcorns and candies and things like that. Dylan had Dylan Draws, and it was his artwork that he was selling. We've also done Picture Perfect. Hannah had a photo booth. So, there's like I said, there's no end to what your business name can be. But I would say take some time, think about, do you want your name in it? Does your name play off anything that your company does? My friend Eileen, her girls have a business called Sassy Sisters Boutique, right? So a boutique automatically elevates what the company is. A boutique is much more personalized. It's a little elevated. It's a little luxury versus, Sassy Sisters store, right? Sassy Sisters Boutique it changes the way that you perceive the name, right? And then Sassy Sisters, of course, sassy is just a fun word. There's so much personality already in that word. There's alliteration with the two S words, and they're sisters. So you're automatically drawn to, number one, their personality, the fact that they're two sisters working together, and now it's an upscale, elevated shopping experience. You don't necessarily know what their product is, which is a good thing because they've sold many things under this umbrella business name for several years now. So they're a great example of choosing a business name that connects, that makes sense, that portrays the vibe that they're going for. But they can really sell a whole variety of things under that banner, and they have. And if you're coming to Kids Business Day or you're familiar with Kids Business Day, they are always one of our favorite vendors there. They always have great success. So I hope they don't mind me sharing their business name. It's a great example of, again, just pulling that vibe, pulling that clear understanding, and also throwing in some fun alliteration. It's easy to remember, it's easy to spell, and it stays with you, right? So let's talk about a couple other things to consider as you're building out your name. You could do something that includes a rhyme. If your name or your product or your business idea, you can kind of brainstorm and think about words that might rhyme with that. That's a great way to create something that's memorable, it's fun, it's bold, it's creative, as long as it makes sense with what you're doing. Rhyming is a great way to create a company name. You could also do like a fun play on words or puns. Those, I love puns, but again, you've got to be smart with it. So as you're brainstorming and you need some feedback on that, by all means, ask a friend, ask a parent, ask a coach, just for some feedback on there. But puns, if they're done well, they can work really, really well for your business as well. So, take some time, think about what it is you're trying to articulate from the very, very first impression that your business makes with your name. Your name is what everybody's going to see first. So if you write down a business name, ask yourself, if I was a customer, I had no idea any context or anything about this person or this company. Number one, do I know what their company is? Do I know what their brand is? Do I know what they're selling? Do I want to support them? Like, does it draw me in? Does it connect to me? Does it make sense to me? Do I feel excited and like trusting about this brand based on this word and these words and this name? And do I want to learn more? Is this something that I'm going to go pursue and find and stand behind and know how to spell spell it, if I want to Google it and find out maybe where you're located, where your website is, things like that, right? So let's move on to your brand identity, and that's really going to come down to your logo. So we're going to, not totally deep dive into like colors and fonts, but I will give you some guide points of what to look for as you are building out your brand. I'll give you some examples that we've done with our companies, but never underestimate the power of colors. Colors portray maybe even more than you realize, right? When you see red, for example, and I can actually probably go through a lot of color schemes and colors in general, but red in general is a power color. It also can mean like danger or stop. And so depending on what you're maybe pairing it with or how you're using it, red in small doses can be a really powerful color to use. I'll use our playbook as an example. So obviously I'm using all of the techniques that I'm teaching as I built this product, this company, right? The Future CEO Playbook is all part of my company as well. And as you can see, if you're watching this video, the brand color for this playbook is orange. And now an important point to make here is that your brand and your company's color does not necessarily need to be your favorite color, right? To that point, orange is like my least favorite color in probably the whole world, right? But when I was brainstorming on what would connect with my ideal audience, right? I wanted it to be a gender neutral color. I wanted it to be something bold and bright. I wanted it to be so overwhelmingly like red. Like red was too much of like a stop color for me, and maybe like a hazard danger color for me. That's how I associate it. That's how a lot of people associate red. I didn't want it to be red. Yellow is typically like a very happy color, right? Yellow in general is like just happy and springy and bright and sunshine, right? So orange, if you think about it, when red and yellow mix, they create orange. So it's like this powerful but happy, a little bit more low key, but still a really bright, cheery color. It's also very unique. There's not a lot of companies that use orange. So orange still kind of has the corner on the market on like a pretty unique color. Also because probably a lot of people don't love orange. But I wanted something that was bright, that was stood out from anything else out there, and also would not be specifically geared toward girls or boys, men or women. And then you can also see too, I added, as we're talking about this, I'll show you a little bit further. I downplayed the orange with like a really neutral dark navy blue, right? To kind of hone in and kind of make the orange tone down a little bit. I didn't add red or yellow to this, right? I mixed it with a little bit more of a neutral white, dark navy blue. And then I don't know if you can see on the screen, but I've got a little pop of like, it's like a mint green, but the graphics I've used kind of make it look like an electric light. If you think about like a storefront or a diner with like their open sign that's like lit up like a neon sign, that's how I've used this mint green. So all of the graphics using that mint green throughout this book look like the neon sign of like an open sign. So subtly, it was like a business is open kind of thing. And I thought the mint green with the navy blue helped tone down the brightness, maybe a little bit brashness of the orange, while still giving the orange the chance to shine and be what it needed to be. So never underestimate the power of slowing down, choosing your colors, knowing exactly what you're trying to accomplish with the look and the feel of your brand. Like I said, even in this playbook, a lot of care went into what exactly am I trying to communicate from the first glance, the first picture that somebody has of what this playbook is all about. Is it going to connect with who I want it to connect with, even if it's not my favorite color, right? Another example I can give you is our Big O's golf cart dealership. Like I've mentioned, those brand colors are, again, a dark midnight blue and yellow. Now, blue represents calmness. It's the very first color that people would identify as being trustworthy. So we wanted a brand that, again, over the years would represent calm, trustworthy, and then we paired it with yellow, which we've already talked about, represents this happy, kind of adventurous, sunshiny mood, right? So when you blend calm, trustworthy, but fun and happy and adventurous, that's what we wanted our brand to portray. And then the fonts were a whole nother level of that. But while I'm talking about colors, I will also add, green is typically represented with something fresh, something earthy. It could even kind of mean that, push the green button like go, opposed to the red, which is the stop. Green is, depending on the tone of the green, obviously you can use like this mint green, you can do a really dark forest green, you could do a bright bright green. You could do a really deep neutral olive green. Olive green is the new neutral. It's very calming. It's very earthy. It's very elevated and luxurious if it's used the right way. It can pair really well with a nice bright color if that's what you're going for. Now, again, if you don't love olive green, but it's really good for your brand, consider it. Don't turn colors off just because you don't like them. And again, this might go without saying, but if you are a girl and you're selling something that's not necessarily just for girls and your favorite color is pink, maybe don't go right with the pink, right? If you want to bring in customers that aren't girls, then boys might be turned off if they see pink, or they might not think of it as something that would help them, even if it totally could, literally because of the color that you used. So maybe find ways that you can use it strategically or just in small doses, and things like that. Same goes with blues and things like that. If you're a boy and you're like, I don't want to use anything pink, but you're selling floral arrangements, well, you might need to use some pinks or purples or even just some deeper colors to resonate with your potential customer. So think of all of those things. Mentioned purple. Purple is a really good luxury color. Not necessarily like a bright purple, but a nice deep plum or magenta. Those paired with like a real neutral palette can really elevate your brand if you're going for something that's a little bit more upscale, a little bit more luxurious. Neutrals with little like deep colors are a really nice pairing. I would be cautious of using like the bright primary colors, like if you think of like a box of crayons, the reds, the yellows, the blues, green, bright orange. I would be very cautious of using those in combinations together if you're not selling something that's for younger aged kids, or something more just playful, or I don't want to say elementary, but elementary or juvenile. That those could represent something for a younger audience. And if you are trying to sell to parents, you might need to elevate it a little bit more. So again, throwing a lot at you, a lot of things to think about as you're building your brand, but colors again, and then fonts. So fonts are, the lettering and the typeface that you're going to use to write your business name. And fonts carry just as much weight as colors do. They portray a message that you don't even have to say or write. They, if you have a big, strong block letter like IBM, like we've mentioned, that's a nice, strong, stable, powerful message just from the lettering, as opposed to maybe a cursive or a more whimsical handwriting type of a font. It's a little bit more personalized. It's a little bit more playful and light. If you're going to use something that's a little bit more jagged and edgy, it could be something a little bit more trendy, right? Even something that looks a little bit more like vintage or techie. You probably have an idea of what some of these fonts can look like, and great platforms to kind of play around with. You can even open up like a Word document, just type out a few words and then change the fonts and just kind of get an idea of what works for your brand. Not necessarily, again, your personal preference, but what communicates the message of what you want your brand to represent. And just kind of play around with some combinations. I would caution you on using any more than 2 fonts in your business name is too much. So if you used like a nice block letter and then something a little bit skinnier for the second word, you want them to balance. So don't use 2 heavy fonts or 2 that kind of conflict with themselves. Use like one big statement font and then maybe a supporting font. And again, the best way to learn what a good brand font looks like is to study what others have done. So by all means, go to the store, you could even just, Google search some good brand names and really study their typeface and their fonts and their color schemes and just the way that they present their business name. You can learn so much just from watching how other people have done it. I personally, like I said, this is going to sound really nerdy, but I love going to like the grocery store or like, little trendy markets and looking to see how other people have branded their products. It's very inspiring. You can get overwhelmed by it if you let yourself, to be honest, but just seeing how other people do it, it's amazing how it can inspire you, give you some ideas on how you want your business to look. And again, this is the face of your company. So you want to take the time to do this well. You don't want to do this haphazardly or in a rush and then 6 months later be like, I actually don't like this. This isn't working. Let's change it. And then 6 months later, you kind of do the same thing, and you're looking to build something that's going to last. You're looking to do something that's going to stand the test of time, but also really resonate with your customers from the start. You want to build a brand that becomes recognizable, and people start picking up on, oh, this looks like Ashlee's product. This looks like something that Ashlee's done because I've seen this before. Like when they start recognizing your brand, recognizing your name, it builds trust, it builds familiarity. And the more people trust and feel comfortable with your brand, the more they're going to buy your product, is really what it comes down to. So take the time now to do it well. If you've ever created a mood board, this is a great opportunity to do that. Grab, just a regular sheet of white paper. Again, there's some pages in your playbook. If you have the Future CEO playbook, you could even get a huge poster board if you want to just do a really big version of this, and just cut out pictures. You could use magazines. You could use just pictures from the internet. You could use just your own handwriting and colors, but start making just a whole big piece of art, basically, of different examples of your colors, of your fonts, and anything that resonates with you as your brand. That would be called a mood board. And it'll help really hone in on like, wow, that looks really good, but with this, it's confusing now. And it really helps you to kind of pull together all of your ideas and see what works as one cohesive brand face. So a mood board is a great activity to do. Again, it's going to take some time, so I would encourage you to do it well. Ask for feedback. Ask people who've maybe done this before for input. Pinterest is also a great source for some mood board ideas, some mood board inspiration, and not to copy, but to find your own, like, I like this, but I don't like this, and kind of making it your own. So Pinterest is a great source for some inspiration. Okay, last piece of this episode, we're going to get into your brand story, because everybody loves a good story, how you got started, why you got started, most importantly, and what you're looking to do through your business, who you're looking to help, what you're looking to accomplish. So this is going to be very personal. This is going to be what makes your business you. This is what's going to make your business stand the test of time, stand out amongst the competition, because nobody has your story. Nobody has your reason why you're doing this, right? Many of you maybe know the story of Big O's golf carts. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but our tagline is "Adventure awaits on the roads less traveled." And that's a nice, succinct way of saying where personally Andy and I were when we started this company. We were pursuing adventure. We left the corporate world. We pursued this entrepreneurial piece. We happened to be in a town where there were hundreds of miles of golf cart paths. His background is rocket science, and we chose the road less traveled, right? Which happened to be a golf cart path. And so there's a ton of play on words for that. There's a ton of just connection with that, with other people who love adventure, or other people who love to consider themselves as somebody who, chooses the roads less traveled, right? And so we're connecting with our ideal audience. We're letting people know that we know what we stand for. And it also opens up a huge opportunity for us to share even more of our story and really to build those long-term relationships and connections with customers. And it's amazing when people will come to the shop because somebody else told them our story. So when it becomes something that just really resonates with others, they really connect with why you're doing what you're doing, why you're showing up in the way you're showing up, what keeps you going, what you're passionate about. It's amazing the ripple effect of how they decide, you know what, that's me too. I'm going to go tell somebody else about this story. And you'll end up with customers that, were referred to you just simply because your story was spreading and you took the time to develop a real brand story that just really resonates. It's true, and it's personal, and it's what makes your brand you. It's what makes you your brand, right? So for your homework for this episode, I really want you to slow down, think about your business name, what makes sense, how you want it to come across, how you want to be portrayed. Make sure it's something simple but still unique. I want you to take time to develop your logo, your brand colors, your fonts. You don't necessarily have to have like an image or anything with the logo. I know we didn't talk about that, but just simple lettering and coloring right now is a great place to start. And how you're going to set it up. Is it going to be circular? Is it going to be rectangular? How do you want it to fit on a t-shirt or a mug or a, business card? All of those things are all considerations for your logo. So I want you to take the time to really think about what you want that to look like. And then finally, I want you to write out what your brand story is. It should be something like, "Hi, I'm Ashlee. I run Big O's Golf Carts. It's a business that believes in chasing adventure on the roads less traveled. I love helping customers find golf carts that are unique to them just as much as they're unique to the industry, because we're all pursuing the roads less traveled and adventure awaits out there." I totally just said that on a whim, but something to that effect, right? So I want you to take the time and just hone in on what that pitch would be, what that brand story is. Again, make it personal. Keep it, two, maybe 3 sentences total, and include why you're doing what you're doing and who you're hoping to help. And we're going to see you on the next episode. So I hope this has helped. I can't wait to see what y'all have come up with, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in today. Before you go, it would mean the world to me and my family if you would share this episode with at least one person who you think might benefit from this message. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also follow me at Ashlee Ilg on Instagram to keep up with our adventures and for continued encouragement as you pursue your big ideas. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time.